Hey everybody, welcome back to another Jackson Jet Setting cruise review. Today I am reviewing the Carnival Conquest on my 2-night voyage to Nassau. We're going to review the entire ship, we're going to review some of the entertainment, the food on board, the excursions, try to cover everything here so that when you're planning your cruise on the Carnival Conquest, you get a little bit more out of it, maybe you save some money, maybe you have a little bit more fun. That's the whole point of this channel. If you like this type of content, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. It really helps me out. So let's get going. So let's first review the ship. So the Carnival Conquest was built in 2002. It has a French Impressionist theme, which is a theme that would not be built today, wouldn't be put onto any of the newer ships. The newer ships all sort of look similar. They're very sleek, they're very modern, they have a lot of cool amenities like roller coasters and things like that. Haven't actually been on those ships quite yet on Carnival. Excited to join on board one day soon. But the Carnival Conquest, definitely older. I actually really like this type of ship. I think that it's a nice size relative to the number of passengers on board. There's plenty of room for people to spread out. They pack a lot on these ships, and the crew are all really amazing, and they do a great job of programming a lot of fun activities so that you're really never bored. Carnival Conquest gets really high marks for me in that regard for sure. The theme itself, I really didn't know how I was going to feel about the theme before I got on board. I was aware that things were going to be kind of dated. Overall, it was honestly pretty fun. I took a little French in school, so it was kind of fun to see some of the artists renamed. The bars and after Vincent van Gogh, and the Toulouse-Lautrec is the name of the theater on board, and so they have a lot of Toulouse-Lautrec art. Stuff that maybe is lost on most of the Carnival cruisers out there, but I really enjoyed my time on board for that reason. Overall condition of the ship, despite it being over 20 years old, felt like the condition of the ship was really great. They've done a great job keeping things up. There weren't too many things that were broken or overly worn. So in that regard, I was really happy. If anything, I think that embarkation day was probably my least favorite day, only because Carnival won't let you into your room, your stateroom, with your carry-on bags until after 2 p.m. And so there's a lot of people on the pool deck, and these ships are just not as wide as the modern ships. And so things can get kind of cramped, especially in the food areas. Everyone's trying to get their embarkation lunch on. Since we're already talking about food, we can talk about the food on board the Carnival Conquest. So it was just a 2-night voyage, so I didn't have time to try multiple nights at multiple venues. I had dinner in the main dining room the first night, and then I had dinner at the steakhouse the second night. My first time dining in both. So the main dining room food was absolutely fantastic. I thought that the short rib I had was as good as anything I've had on shore. The soup was pretty good, and the service was great. I'm also very impressed with the wine list on Carnival. I sail a lot of Royal Caribbean, and I've never really been impressed with wine. I'm a big red wine drinker, and they just had some really, really good options, and they were well priced. The steakhouse, the food was really delicious. I thought pretty good value for $50, a little cheaper than the steakhouses on Royal Caribbean, for example. And I thought that the food was very upscale and presented really cool. The service was also excellent, as you would expect. The main buffet's food was fine. I thought that it was quite serviceable. Went in there for breakfast a couple times, a couple snacks here and there, and always was able to find something that was pretty good. To me, the real stars of the show for complimentary cuisine on Carnival ships are Guy's Burgers and Blue Iguana. The food there was absolutely fantastic. One of the best burgers I've had at sea. It didn't disappoint yet again. I had it on my cruise on the Carnival Radiance. Shout out to the Carnival Radiance. If you are sailing out of the West Coast, check out my videos on that ship. And Blue Iguana had really good options, and it's open for breakfast, which is really fun. There's also a barbecue restaurant on board that is complimentary. It's on the second floor of the buffet. Not all that great. I am Texan though, so I'm pretty picky about my barbecue. Now, this was a 2-night sailing, so they weren't selling any beverage packages. That would have been a great value there. But I felt drink prices were pretty normal for a cruise. No real deals to be found. I felt like there were less happy hours on this cruise than I had seen on the Carnival Radiance. But it was a short cruise, so maybe I just didn't find them. Now let's talk activities. I think that this is where Carnival really shines. They always have a really fun crew. They are called the Fun Ships, of course. Cruise director was really peppy and fun. Welcome Aboard show was really great. They didn't have time really to do a ton of shows, obviously, because there was only 2 nights on board, but a lot of the activities that they had, like trivia or name that tune, were going on all day, every day. They had karaoke going. The ship was always having something going on, and they had live music for those that didn't really want to do like an actual activity, just wanted to sit and listen. They had live music all over the ship, and I think that this is definitely a theme I've seen across all my Carnival cruises at this point. Now, we stopped in Nassau, Bahamas, which is not my favorite port by any means, but I did have a lot of onboard credit that I had to spend in this 2-day voyage, so I decided to go to Atlantis, which ended up being a great decision. It was $220 per person. It was just me on this voyage, so I didn't have to spring for the rest of my family. Overall, it is a very expensive day. It's about as expensive as a day at Disneyland. That's what I always compare it to. But this is one of the best water parks in the world. It truly is. And that does include your transportation to and from Atlantis. Atlantis has a lot of things to do besides the water park that are included in your ticket, including tons of aquariums. They have acres and acres to explore. So if you're not into water parks, check that out. If you are cruising to Nassau, I do recommend getting off the ship if you've never been. Walking around the new port is really great, and you can leave the main port area, and there's some shopping at the straw market. There's restaurants and bars right next to the ship as well. There's a cool rum distillery. There's a lot of things to do in Nassau that don't require a formal tour. So definitely get off the ship for a few hours and just explore a little bit. One area that I think that Carnival can improve, though, is its PreCruise experience. The app is pretty much unusable off the ship. Once you're on the ship, the app's actually pretty good. But in terms of checking in, I experienced a ton of glitches. Once you actually get to the port, you can't use the app to actually sail through the embarkation process like you can with Royal Caribbean. You can't add the boarding card to your Apple Wallet. You actually have to physically print out your boarding pass and then show it to people. If you didn't print it out, they will print it out for you at the port, but it's this flimsy little piece of paper, and it's easily lost, and you have to use that for charges before you get your room key. So overall, I felt like that process is pretty clunky. The other thing is, if you do buy an internet package, you're probably going to want to activate that as soon as you get on board, because the ship's cell service, especially on the interior decks, is going to be a little spotty if you want to keep in touch with people back home. And you need your folio number to activate your internet, and that's only available via guest services or on your room key card, which of course you won't have when you first get on the ship. So the process there is a little clunky for sure. Debarkation was also a bit of a mess. We were supposed to be off the ship by 8 or 8:30, and there was some delay happening, and people were starting to get a little angry about missing their flights. That can always happen, and it's not really the cruise's fault because customs didn't clear them, but it seemed like we were kind of late coming in, so I'm not really sure what happened there. The communication was really great, though, but just kind of soured on the experience a little bit just because we were delayed about an hour outside of our cabins waiting to get off the ship. I did sail in an interior cabin on this cruise, and I felt like it was great for me as a solo traveler. Felt like it was nice and big, bigger than sort of the normal rooms. It was on deck 1. I didn't notice any sewage smell like I did on my previous Carnival cruise, so that was great. Felt like everything was in great shape in the room, and had a good cabin steward for my 2 nights there. So no issues for me, and of course it was a very short cruise. So do I need a window for a 2-night voyage? No. Overall, great time. So that's basically my review of the Carnival Conquest. If you have any other questions, please let me know in the comments. I can happily answer those for you. And happy sailing.